Sorry.
So, so when it comes to what you said, right, about how service managers get very excited, want to achieve some goals, and then don't get to do what they would like to do, right? Whether it's money, whether it's organizations not understanding, not cooperating, resisting, whatever it may be. I think initially, what like I said, right, if you're a service manager and you're starting with a company, you're being hired, before you're getting hired, and I know that's difficult because it is a job and it is money that's coming in, and sometimes we need money. But it would be great if you can align yourself with that organization, right? Is this organization in sync with my ambitions, what I want to do, what I want to achieve, right? And if they're not ready for you, you're not going to be happy, right? It's at least if you're really that excited and really want to achieve those things, then maybe that company is not the right choice for you. If you start with that company, one of the first things is in my mind is always looking at, again, what is the strategy of the organization? Where do they want to be in 3 years from now? And where are they today? What is their OCM strategy, right? So how do they look at changing the organization, reorganizing? And then it's really, and I know I'm oversimplifying it, but it is, in my mind, a little bit of balancing your enthusiasm and ambition with the reality of the world that you work in, right? So to quote a famous TV show, curb your enthusiasm, right? And it sounds simple, but that is sometimes what you just need to do to, I think, stay motivated, right? So look at where you are, look at where you want to go, and cut it up in pieces that are consumable, that will be accepted by the organization that you work for, right? And then make bigger strides as you go along.
Yeah.
But like I said, Daniel, it's something that I dealt with 35 years ago when I started. The world hasn't really changed much. We never learn.
Right. Andrew
humans.
keeps coming off on mute, so
Sorry.
I wanted to give him space. But you're good. You're
Nah,
good. I
it's
love
all
that.
good. I'm going to throw a slight curveball. What if you don't have ambition? And I mean that in terms of, like, I'm in service management. I've kind of fallen into it, doing over a decade. I'm not from an ego point of view, but I know I'm good at it. Like, there's aspects of service management. I'm very confident in what I do. I know I provide value and all that kind of stuff. I don't personally have ambition, so I don't like have a alignment with the customer in terms of where they want to go. But where I align is trying to figure out where they want to go and seeing if my skills can actually help them move along. It's not necessarily what drives me. Like, their success is great and all that, but really it's more of the drive I get is less ambition. It's more, does my skill set help them get to where they need to be? Second part of that is from the few customers I've worked with over the years, a lot of it is sometimes the customer doesn't know where they want to be. They're unclear about their goals. And that sounds weird, but I know in the current customer I have that's very much, the past 5 years has been working out where they're headed. And that's both from us understanding them, but also them understanding how they, as a ICT function, provide what their role is within that organization as a whole. So a lot of what we've been working with is that strategic mission definition level. We're finally at a point where we're actually getting some good progress there, where we're actually going down that path. They're actually getting some clarity about where their function sits within that organization, how they provide value to the rest of the organization, which is good because then we start getting out of the weeds of the operation side of things, and this is where probably when you first go into an organization, you probably are less involved in the strategic goal-oriented side and you get stuck in the, firefighting, right? Incident management, maybe problem if you're lucky, but request fulfillment, all the traditional RTSM practices. And you can kind of sometimes get stuck in it. I know probably for a couple of years there. And it probably didn't help that I started with this current customer during the pandemic as their change manager during lockdowns and all that kind of stuff, which was a wild ride. But you got stuck in the whole just keeping the lights on, and you didn't get the chance to. No one had the chance to actually breathe and go, wait, where do we want to go? And I think probably, I'm hoping there's probably a few other kind of organizations around the world who are finally getting to that stage now where they've ridden the last 4 or 5 years where it has been one thing after another. And, unfortunately, world events, there's more things on the horizon, and there's some organizations that need to handle that now, and they're really just treading water and trying to stay afloat. So they're probably still stuck in that. But hopefully, like I said, with the customer I am now, that we're actually getting to that stage where we can work with them around their strategy, look towards how both operationally and forecasting and service improvements and all that kind of stuff, how we can help them and how all the practices can work, all the different vendors can work together, and how we can align everything to make sure that everyone is working towards the same goal. So yeah, I think part of it takes time, getting in there and expecting that straight away, at least from what I've gone, even from other accounts as well. Probably at least from what I've gone through, it's just a little unrealistic. And sometimes you come across that whole OCM barrier where, you're coming in as a new, I'm speaking from a vendor perspective, right? You're coming in as a new vendor, you're the new guy. So like, you don't know how we work, we'll tell you how we work and then you work for us type thing. And then there's a relationship that you need to build, and that takes time as well. So that's just from what I've experienced anyway.
Yeah.
I tend to refuse, for instance, so-called consultancy jobs where they actually, as many of you know, I live in France, they say, okay, 6 months Paris, 4 days a week, 2 days on site, 2 days at home if you want. Say, okay, what do you want me to do? Yeah, you need to be the change and the problem and the change incident manager. Okay, first of all, that is impossible. Second, that's no use. If I do during 6 months this job and I put it, let's say again on the, not on the board level, but at least visible. And after 6 months, I'm gone, and then everything. So what I want is actually to work with that company, to train them, to help them, to coach them, so that they can do it themselves. Because I'm not going to stay there. And I find that so stupid, actually, of organizations, so short-sighted. It's
Well, I think that's the two worlds, right, Peter? Right, that is where we are in as consultants. You go in and out, and there is staff augmentation. That's a different thing, right? That's why you have staff augmentation. I think where Andrew was talking, I think if I understand right, as a vendor going in, it's a different situation, right? And I mean, my response to what you said, right? I'm not sure if it was really a curveball. I think there's two things. It's as a vendor, it's a different position as a service manager for an organization.
Yeah.
The whole outsourcing is a different topic we can talk about if organizations are really ready to outsource. Because and to your point, right, if a customer doesn't know where they want to go, well, then they're handing a challenge to a third party without really telling the third party where they want to go. So it's like the yellow brick road, right? Any road is fine if you don't know where to go. So it's all about, at the end of the day, it's also, again, matching where an organization is, right? So an organization, and I meet that all the time, right? Customers who don't know what their vision is, what their strategy is, where they want to be in 3 years from now. Well, then let's look. Where do you want to be in 3 months from now? Right? Where do you want to be in 6 months from now? Right? And take baby steps with them and go through that journey with them. My initial response to also like Daniel says, right? If you are a passionate service manager, and we've been in this industry for a long time, and we know what the cool world looks like about service oriented and outside in thinking, and you're going to a customer that is very technology focused, then the first step shouldn't be talking about outside in thinking and service orientation, right? That is not the world that they live in. It's like telling, I always say, if you compare it with schools, it is like telling kindergartners the Albert Einstein E equals mc square, right? They're going to look at you like, what the hell are you talking about? Right. So it's about matching that type of thing, right? So, and that's what I meant with the ambition, right, Andrew? It's like you said, I don't really have a ambition, but we do have a job to do, right? And all I'm saying is, like, don't talk to them about something they can achieve in 3 or 4 years from now. Talk to them then about what they could achieve in 3 months from now, or where you want to position yourself as a vendor and how to support them. I think that is important. But I agree with you, Peter, right? Just putting people in without teaching them how to fish when you leave, yeah, that's for people like for me, that would be wasted energy, wasted time.
This is actually a very nice fitting image from the USM training. Where are you and where is your customer in terms of maturity? And if you might be as a supplier somewhere here and your customer is somewhere there, it's not going to work. I've been service level manager for an outsourcing deal that my company actually delivered, and so first of all, we had a huge difficulties of figuring out what their actual group was actually doing. And what they wanted that we would do. And then in the day-to-day operations where I was a service level manager, I didn't have any counterpart that could actually be a good counterpart, that could take decisions, that could think, that could, etc. It was somebody who was parachuted there, and that actually jeopardized the complete deal that we made with them. So thinking, okay, I do outsourcing. Everything is now done by another, and then I don't have to care about it anymore. Yeah, that's not how it works.
But that's how, like I said, I think it's a whole separate topic. Talk about outsourcing and what is the right circumstance to outsource. When should you outsource? How should you outsource? Some companies just think throwing it to an organization that has experience that solves the problem.
Nope.
And it's not. But
I have a question. I've meant to look this up before and I never have. And Adrian, my money's on you, brother. How did outsourcing start? Like, when did it start? All the way back with the dawn of computers, or does anybody actually know?
with the Greeks, thousands of years ago. I mean, they call it slavery, but that's outsourcing. I mean, I'm not doing it. Somebody else is doing it.
More outforcing.
Yeah, outforcing. Yeah.
That's good. I mean, sad, but good. So now, I mean, more specifically, like the most traditional thing that people think of with outsourcing, I think, is probably, help desk, service desk, level 1 stuff. Like, when did that start? Does anyone know? I'm going to ask, talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to ask Glenn, which is what I call my ChatGPT.
I mean, I can only guess, but did not start with the first day of IT. I mean, outsourcing has always happened everywhere, right? It's outsourcing your plumbing, your building of your house, right? It's the bartering piece. Somebody else does something for you, right? So I think it just naturally happened also within IT. It's not something I want to focus on. It's not my core competency. So I hand it to somebody who says, hey, this is my core competency. I know how to do this a lot better than you do. But
so, sorry. A quick
No, go
Google
ahead.
search is telling us that the term outsourcing, just the term, originated no later than 1981. And it started when a lot of United States jobs, industrial jobs, were being moved overseas.
Yeah.
Bloody
Okay.
Americans.
That's how they.
They're so
I mean,
bad.
listen,
Oh, that's
That's how they got the term outsourcing.
we're,
that's the
we're
term, yeah.
terrible.
Outsourcing and
I,
airsourcing.
I did include myself in that. Don't get me wrong. I did include myself in that.
All right,
I'm
well,
Aussie in name only.
I also put in chat what I found, and there's a great example of different prompts because I specifically said L1 IT support, and the first contract is Kodak in '89 with IBM. I mean, I knew it was going to be IBM, but
Yeah.
just because I'm old and I remember when they were important. But yeah, all right. Anyway, sorry. That's the kind of random stuff that just I like to learn.
Well, you know, one thing that occurs to me sometimes when customers don't know what they want, to be fair, there's so much disruption happening today. It's hard to know where to go. They don't know. You know, if you're in a disruptive industry and everything's turned upside down, you're, you know, asking them where they want to be. They just want to survive. They don't know. I mean, so,
Right.
you know, I don't know. All I know is I got arrows thrown at me.
Well-
And that's sometimes a hard question to answer.
I think. I mean, I want to play devil's advocate a little bit here, John. Right? So it's.
All right.
I think a company who doesn't know where they want to be shouldn't be a company, right?
Well,
It is
Amen,
maybe
brother.
it is maybe on how you get there. That might be a challenge, right? They don't know how to do it, but if you want to be the greatest organization in the world, or if you just want to, you should know your audience, you should know the quality, you should know at least what you want to deliver. If you don't know that, yeah, get out, right? Because all the other companies will just swallow you whole.
Well, I don't disagree with that, but I think it's a little harsh. I mean, I think when the landscape is radically changed, there are moments when there's uncertainty and I'm not sure where to go, right? I mean, so you got to figure it out. And so it's,
But that's the example is oh man, what is that? What's that video rental place that we always went to?
Blockbuster.
Blockbuster. Yeah, it's an example, right? So
yeah.
they didn't know what to do, and you're swallowed whole, right?
Yeah,
so
they
you
waited.
gotta understand what your future looks like, otherwise you're doomed.
Yeah, you better hurry up and figure it out.
You better figure it out.
And then
that's
Disrupt
phase two.
yourself before someone else does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I think in a way is what Netflix did. Remember, because they used to be the mail-in service, and then they did some price change, and the CEO released some letter that like business books now say was one of the most impactful save a business moves that an organization ever did. But yeah, it's
I was their mail-in customer until the very end,
I believe that about you.
until it died.
I do remember when they first moved to digital and people were like, what are you doing? You've got a massively successful mail business for DVDs. What are you doing this digital stuff for? But they saw that that's where their future was. So they disrupted themselves.
And those are tough decisions, you know, when you have a successful business, but you gotta slit your own throat to survive. That's not easy.
Kodak didn't do it. They invented, pretty sure they were one of the first companies to start digital imaging.
Yes.
But they were making way too much money on film, so they didn't do it. And then they got eaten.
It's a great example.
Yeah, it's another good example is Motorola's day when they were thriving. My former organization actually took a piece of some of the things they were moving on from, because in their business strategy, it was not going to be IT services, it was not going to be technology services, and then they also invested in their new strategic vision that was not in mobile device. And at that time, Apple said, we'll take mobile devices, and look at where Apple is and look at where Motorola is sitting right now.
Yeah.
Because we have in Chicagoland, there was a big headquarters for Motorola. And I think it was the late 80s was my former owners of my company acquired their IT services, and then we built our MSP IT services from that, and started to build that out. I love what everybody's kind of doing here, and I have some questions because of some of the areas that everyone was going. I know we're covering some of the territory of picking the right customer. I know we all have to make money and things like that. So what are tools that people are using to vet out when you are meeting a potential customer, a potential opportunity? What are you guys using? Are you using surveys? Do you have some of these things built out that you have these key questions that they answer, or even in your calls and meetings you ask to then know, this is a good choice, or this one's gonna be a tough one, but we may take it nonetheless?
Well, I'll take a stab at it. This is probably a little dated, but basics for me is, what's the organizational landscape, right? What does that look like? What's their service catalog look like? What are they telling me their strategy is? I mean, really basic stuff. You got to know that first before you really get in too far, too deep. What's the political climate like? All of those things. Once you kind of know what the terrain looks like, then you can kind of drill down from there. But I stick to the basics. I mean, that's what I used to do anyway.
Is there something that turns you off or is a red flag for you?
For me, it was always politics.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, exactly. I can only speak on an individual level because obviously I work for a vendor. But over the years, I've had personal either reach outs from companies wanting services, or I've seen opportunities where I've been interested and kind of gone for it. And then so obviously some have worked, some have not. But the biggest thing is, like, the biggest red flag for me has always been the political side of things. If I've worked with the company before, one of the times where I worked with one of the customers and they were taking, essentially, our role was wrapping up, but they were doing that role internally, and they were highly encouraging me to apply for it. And I just knew the landscape at the time, and it was very much I knew who I was going to be reporting to, and I was just like, nah, not interested. So I'm just not interested in playing the politics.
Ironically, I almost interviewed for that role.
I think we might be talking about different customers.
Maybe. Was it the one we worked at together?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Never mind.
Well,
So full clarity, Andrew and I do work for the same organization. So
What? Get out of here.
Well, the sad reality is we have so many decades of hierarchical management, right? That it's just the nature of companies is there's always a power pecking order. If you are aligned with a guy who's doesn't have the power, then your scope is going to be limited. If you're going to try and do a top-down transformational change and you're aligned with a guy that doesn't have any power, you're not going anywhere. I mean, that's just the reality. So your strategy is going to need to change. You're going to need to go bottom up a little, or eventually inch your way towards someone that has the authority to get something radical done. I mean, that's unfortunate because I think companies miss a lot of opportunities that way.
Yeah, I mean, for some of the examples, if I put my old MSP hat on, we probably dealt with several iterations of leadership in the technology departments that we had contracts for. we may have been brought in because a brand new person just started, and they're just like, I want to outsource service desk and some of these other IT services. And they had a vision, and their vision matched our vision. Then they got an opportunity to move on from that organization. And then that organization brought in another person. Well, now their vision is totally different than what we built out, contractually have, and all the other goods. And then that's where either things go sour, just depending on the team and how it's managed and stuff like that, or it continues to thrive because you're able to have those very candid, brutal reality conversations with the person and then realign, whether that's updating your current contract or making modifications to it, or even changing how you're doing a couple different things.
Yeah. Never burn a bridge. You can always use a friend.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Adaptability, yes, but also.
Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
I was just about to say, strong. Depends how strong the culture is within that organization when that new person comes in. If the culture is strong, then it could work, and that new person can align to that. If the culture is not, then that new person, depending on their position of power, can override it and completely change the course.
And I don't know, the power of human hope, or whatever you want to call it, but over the years, I've had conversations with, large to really large organizations who would say, well, we're so unhappy with ABC company, but we've got a new bid out and we're really excited about XYZ company. And I know both of those companies. I know people who work at both of those companies. And if you're that systemically unhappy with ABC, they're not looking at themselves and saying, why are we not happy with the contract that we have in place? And they're taking all those same issues and problems and culture and then just putting it to XYZ. And then 4 years later, I'm having that same, I can't believe how bad XYZ is, and we're going back to ABC. I don't know. There should be better guidance all around on outsourcing, when, why, how much. I just think, and then even when I've seen this a lot of times too, even when a really good contract gets put together, what from the outside, what seems to be like a really pretty good contract, then it gets to procurement, and procurement milks so much out of it that there's, that the quality of the service. I mean, you can't expect to get the same service if you've got it down to a C tier, then guess what? You're not going to get the A+ team. You're not going to get the A+. It's a
circle of life thing.
It is a circle of life thing. Exactly. So, but having watched and listened to those conversations so many times, I'm just like, you got to fix you. For any outsource organization to love you, you got to love you first. That's my key takeaway from today.
One thing that was interesting, there was a company years ago, IMA, I think, or something, but they had a thing on cascading sponsorship, which I thought was interesting. So when you look at the organizational landscape and you're aligned with certain people, you need to make sure that your sponsorship is connected. If there's this, the structure goes up this way and your connections are all out this way, you're weak. And so you want to make sure you cascade your sponsorship up the chain. That is really useful. I found that really useful, and that works. Because then if you have people who are opposing, you got an up and down organization that's solid, and it's hard to move.
Yeah. One word that keeps popping up that really is just kind of about to get me to go on a soapbox, though, is the word culture. And it's one that keeps popping up over and over and over again. And I think that that's really important, actually. I think that, and I think probably maybe even 10, 15 years ago, culture wasn't really seen as such a big thing. But now culture is so important. Your culture needs to match the culture of the organizations that you're working with. Maybe not perfectly, but you need to have some sort of match with them. Or if you're an individual, again, I believe Peter brought it up and Adrian both brought it up as well. You have to have a similar culture to the organization you want to work with. And I just find that that is such an interesting theme that's really starting to be seen more and more nowadays, whereas previously people didn't think it was that important.
Yeah, I agree. I once actually stranded in the job because the culture of that organization was completely, opposite to what I wanted to do, and etc. And so, then I was to leave, of course, and my boss was not to leave. That was clear. I've also seen this kind of things in smaller entities in very large companies. Because especially when you look at very large companies like the Dutch Post and Telecom Services at that moment, or even the Telecom, which are 30,000 people and I don't know how many sites, etc. That there were different cultures in different entities, different sections of the company. So in one you could work very fine, and the other actually. I ran away as quickly as I could, for instance.
Yeah, I like the culmination of what a lot of you said to Stacy's point about culture. I think it has to do the big push has to do with people realizing if you're trying to line up happiness, if you're trying to line up that sense of accomplishment, that you're doing something that you want to do and you enjoy to do, you got to find the right culture that allows you to do that, versus some of trying to stay away from all the different generational names and terminologies that are out there. But like for me, I grew up in a military family, so there are some things that like I'm perfectly fine doing. Like if it's getting my hands dirty and doing work in warehouses and blue collared type of work and stuff like that, I was fine with that. I still am. Just my body's not agreeing with that because of all the different injuries that I've suffered, but it was more sports related. And then you get into the different types of organizations that like I've been looking for. I've been looking for ones that are very technology focused, that are all about, that's the space. That's our mission. Our mission is to be one of the top technology banks, because right now we have the capabilities to do that faster than other banks out there because of how long they've had their business strategies be different. So our footprint is easy to build upon versus they already have these infrastructures of 30, 40, 50 years that they have to transform that organization.
And all the technical debt that goes with that.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
We don't have to transform. We just got to do. And that's kind of the power of why I joined this organization. But a lot of the other organizations I was working with and seeing, it was very intriguing that some of them, if you were in that IT department and you were okay with just delivering and you didn't really want to reach for any other things, you'd be happy there if that's what you're looking for. And then there's other ones that were just like, hey, we're going to be fast to some of the chat posts. We're going to be fast at delivery. Okay. That's not for everybody, because some people that are just naturally good at multitasking are comfortable at doing that. But others, it's going to burn them out just because that's not their DNA.
Yeah, you got to be true to your nature,
Andrew said something when he was talking a while back that really made my heart sing. Which, okay, I got to say, Andrew, these two sentences didn't jive for me. A person who, and maybe we should be talking about how you define ambition. But a person who says, you didn't even say I'm not ambitious. I think you said I have no ambition, which I don't know that I buy, but okay. Putting that on yourself for a second. A person who feels that way, in my mind, also doesn't say, if you're really, really lucky, you get to work on problem management. Because you know what I'm saying? Because problem management is for the intellectually curious, and not that intellectual curiosity and ambition necessarily go hand in hand. But maybe sometime we'll have a sub meeting about ambition and how do we define it.
The problem management one was only because problem management is always the forgotten thing, right? It's the forgotten practice. We're too busy with incident requests. Problem we'll get to it, but problem will reduce your incidents. Don't worry about it. That's what I meant by that.
Oh, I knew what you meant. I just thought those two sentences don't actually come out the same person within a 1 minute span. But that's just me.
But yeah, ambition, and I've written about this before. It's that, like, I think less ambition, more that whole overall, what do you want to be? Like, I've never known. But as long as I'm doing something, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I feel you there. So one of the things, I've actually just started a mentoring program, and the first couple of mentoring things, my mentor is like, so what do you want to be? And I'm just, where do you want to go? And I'm just like, I'm quite happy with what I'm doing. Like, I really don't have some sort of 5-year plan where I'm planning on, moving on to the next role and the next role and the next role. I'm really happy with what I do. I want to grow in this space, but very similar to what Andrew's saying, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So, yeah. I feel that in my soul, Andrew.
I still don't know.
I mean, and
But I think
agree with
it's
Adrian.
beaten into it, that whole, what do you want to... I used to hate that question in interviews. Like, where do you see yourself in a year? Where do you see yourself in 3 years? I have no clue. I don't even know what I'm going to do next week. Depends on how this job interview goes.
I'm with you, Andrew. Don't know where I want to be in 2 days from now.
Well,
but a little, just a little bit to the point that Stacy said, right? I think, in my mind, this is my part. Ambition doesn't equal planning, right? At least if I look at myself, my ambition or what I need from a job is that I need to be challenged, right? So I would never take a job where I'm just kind of like an assembly line worker, where I do the same thing every day. So my ambition is to have a job where I'm challenged every day, but it doesn't mean that I know where I'm going to be in 5 years from now, right? That's to me the difference a little bit.
Yep. And I was going to say my ambition is, and I think it always has been, to be kind, because the best that I can do is be kind to people every day. And how the hell do you say that in a job interview? Where do you want to be 5 years from now? Even kinder than I am today.
Should we,
right?
should we bring up the president, Lisa?
Sorry?
Should we bring up the president?
No.
Oh,
No.
let me stop the recording.
No, I'm just in relation
Of which
to
country?
So let's just say I'm still eligible to vote in the U.S. and yeah.
Mm.
No, let's not go into that rabbit hole.
No.
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 We should really
Nothing
shouldn't.
good can come from that.
May I give a typical example from the French country? Those are not necessarily organizational culture, but the organizational culture quite often in bigger organizations is crap. It's micromanagement all the way. But when you do deals, and I do deals at very low level actually. Most of my customers now are training institutes who need a trainer that can do a training in a particular language. And the most important, and even in bigger organizations in France, is trust. Do I trust this person I need to work with? or who wants to work with me? And does that person trust me? So that's why in France, also very cultural, most deals are closed during a meal in a restaurant. The whole discussion came before, but then when you sit on table together, when you also chat about other things, and then the trust is being built, and that's what makes a deal. And I had to learn to adapt a little bit to that, as being stubborn and ignorant Dutchman, but yeah, it actually works very nice. And I have for myself just said, okay, my passion is training. I also want to do consultancy and coach people, but I'm very happy with doing training, even if it's my 500th ITIL Foundation training. The group I have is always the same. The only thing I really start to hate are online trainings. That is so boring and so without any energy, etc. So, but that's a little bit my view. So I'm not that big looking at changing big organizations, etc. Because yeah, they always mess up themselves. So that's I don't have to do anything. But for me, it's more indeed the how to say that, the higher levels of the Maslow pyramid. That's what I want to achieve, actually.
You know, I get that. I do get that. And I started doing interpretive dance breaks in my ITIL Foundations courses to keep people interested when I do them virtually. You ought to see my release and deploy dance, y'all. It's something. Let me tell you.
Yes, please. I'm here for
Yeah.
it.
Have you got a recording of that?
Oh, we're gonna see it.
All right. So I talk about release, and I mentioned, Slurkin, you might want to move. My cat's in front of me. I mentioned that release is very similar, since you're taking all the training and everything, and you're kind of getting it together in a package. Doing a release, making it deployed. Doing a release, making it deployed. Because you're packing it all up into a box, and then you're pushing that box out.
I love it.
Or you could be throwing it over the wall.
Well, yeah, ideally you would
that's
be.
old school, John.
That's transition to support.
Yeah.
Wait.
Your turn now.
Yeah. Throwing that dead cat over the fence. Oh, if you want it, then you should have put a change on it. I love it. You want it, you should have put a change on it.
Yeah. Nice one, David.
That is a good one.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I like what you were Peter, I like what you were sharing about that dinner thing. That was something that some of our salespeople started to do, to just go on top of this whole conversation about the right fit, right? Everything contractually was reviewed. All of these different meetings up front were done. Ultimately, they said, hey, we need to just get out with these people if we're going to have this long-term partnership, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever the contract was going to be. Let's really kind of know who they are, and started to get more authentic with them and personal with them when you're out at a dinner and drinks. I like that you shared that, because I think that means a lot. And then David was also sharing some of the stories and experiences I've had too, where some of the people drank a little bit too much, and then you actually started to see some of their characters, which could give you some line of sight at what could happen if they get angry or upset, or if there's something that is causing anxiety or stress, like how do they work, and if it works well with you. The interview process then was what popped in my mind, because I hear a lot of organizations taking people out to lunch and dinner and seeing how they act in public spaces. I find that very interesting. But yeah.
In summation, Daniel recommends getting drunk with people before doing any kind of deal.
Yeah. Dang, the recording's on too. Don't snip that out, please.
Well, I'm leaving that in, brother.
No. If my dance is staying in, that's definitely staying
Okay.
in too.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely say it.
Yeah, don't post like that quote on like our OSC page at all.
No,
This
I will not.
summary.
Unless someone
I'll
else.
post it
I'm
with a
glad you said that.
screenshot.
I'm glad you said that though. I'm about to take the picture. Does anyone not on camera want to join in on camera to be in the photo? And
There he
hello,
is.
Edward. And you know, guess what our topic is next Friday, y'all?
I forget.
Adrian can tell us. All right.
That SLA thing, right?
I'm gonna take the picture in.
The nonsense of SLA.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about it. I'm gonna take the picture in 3. So 3, 2, 1's about to happen. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. There we go. And I'll do the post this week unless someone's burning to do it.
Oh, you got it.
Okay.
All good.
I will do it. And do we have any? We got 3 minutes. Do we have any? Do you want me to turn the recording off and then we can talk about whatever the F we want? Let me do that. On that note, I'm stopping the recording.